and welcome to another edition of Forever Young, the program that celebrates life for those of us who are on the other side of 50, a program that really says that you're young as you feel, and of course, age ain't nothing but a number. My name is David C. Linton, and I'm so happy to be with you again this week. And of course, this is a production of Hope TV. And of course, I'm always joined by the two lovely ladies who make this show worth my while to come and do it. And that's the beautiful Jean Hendricks and Dr. Sharon Mitchell. Hello, ladies.
Hi, David. As always, I'm delighted to share this post with you. Good afternoon.
Hi, David. So glad to join you and Miss Jean Hendricks again. Looking forward to today's discussion.
Yes, and what a discussion it was. Of course, last week we had a guest who was, and we were talking about activism, and the information and the dialogue was so rich that we really just couldn't fit it into one 30-minute program. And so we asked our guest to come back to be with us again this week. But before we reintroduce him, of course, we always get that pearl from Jean and kind of sets the stage as we're talking about activism. So, Jean, what do you have for us this week?
Thank you, David. I am always excited to read writings by W.E.B. Du Bois. He's one of my favorite writers. And he has paraphrased our My Country 'Tis of Thee, and I'm going to read two paragraphs of how he paraphrased it because activism has to do with a change. And it reads, "My country 'tis of thee, late land of slavery. Of thee I sing, land where my father's pride slept where my mother's died. From every mountainside let freedom ring. My native country thee, land of the slave set free. Thy frame I love thy rocks and hills, and over they hate with chills. My heart with purpose thrills. To rise again, I am free." Back to you, David.
Thank you so much again. That is such a rich thoughts and very creative. Of course, we're going to bring our guest back, but before we do that, I want to give you a little bit for those of you who weren't with us last week. He's a minister. He is a former legislator. He is an entrepreneur. He's the principal of the law firm, the Randall Alonzo Magnum LLC here in Atlanta. He serves on the clergy here of Greater Travelers Rest Baptist Church, the House of Hope, Atlanta. He is also a former legislator where he represented in 2000 and represented the 94th House District here in Georgia. He's also ran for offices in DeKalb and Rockdale counties. He's also an alum of Historically Black College, Howard University, where he graduated with cum laude in his Juris Doctorate degree. And then, of course, he went on to School of Law at different schools, Washington, D.C. He went to the University School of Law from Howard, should I say. And then he did his Master of Divinity School from the Chandler School of Theology, Emory University. And he is a silver member of the NAACP. And we're going to talk about that. That's so important. But before, I could be here all day talking about all of his great accomplishments. So why don't we just bring the man back to the camera and back to the stage? I'm talking about Mr. Reverend Randall Magnum.
Hey, how do you do? It's a pleasure to be here again with the lovely Miss Jean Hendricks and Dr. Mitchell. Brother David Clinton, thank you for having me again. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. You know, we were talking about activism, and this, we're just coming out of Black History Month. This, PBS had the special about the Black church, and it's so ironic. The irony is that so many of our leaders came out of the Black church. Our first Black senator came out of the Black church. One of our first congressmen from Atlanta, Lewis, came out of the Black church. You are a clergy, so it's such an important part of our DNA in terms of creating our leadership. And so when we talk about activism, how was the era in which you lived, helped you get into activism? Because we talked last week about the baby boomers and being so active. How did it have an impact on you?
Well, just growing up in Griffin, Georgia, you didn't have to. You're just gonna do something about it, or you're gonna just talk on the corner. And that one of the things I saw. A lot of our people, we get on the corner, we talk about the man, about how bad it is. But I just believe that we can all, God has given us the tools in our hands to do something about whatever we want to do about whatever. Griffin, Georgia has, and at one time, I don't know where it is, whether it has now, but Griffin, Georgia had the most people incarcerated per capita than anywhere in the state of Georgia. The state of Georgia has more people in jail, incarcerated per capita than any state of the United States of America. And the United States of America has more people in jail than anywhere in the world. So right down in Griffin, Georgia, where I'm from, had more people in jail per capita than anywhere in the whole world. And it was that kind of environment when we formed started my law firm down there. I had black people that, just lined up against the wall. They're putting them in jail. And they said they're treating us so much better since your black law firm was here. But boy, it wasn't that good to me. It makes your heart bleed when you see the justice that we don't get. People fall through the cracks and serving 5 and 10 years over little or nothing, that other communities don't have to go through that. And so we got to have criminal justice. Unfortunately, there's a difference. We like crack cocaine. They like powder cocaine. They can get a slap on the wrist. We go to jail forever. And, I'm not advocating either way, but, you're going to do justice one way, do it for everyone. And so from my vantage point, just getting active was just seeing injustice, seeing people treated differently. And I just wanted to do something about it. And that's one of the reasons I became a lawyer, because I saw that lawyers could make a difference. I saw that they could advocate for those that cannot speak up for themselves. And I enjoy doing that. And it's been good to me. It's been good to my clients. It's been good to just participate in the system. And I'm just excited about being, manifesting what I say and not just talk about it, but do it. So that's
we're so glad. And we're so glad that you took that route. I know Jean has a question that she wants to pose to you at this time. Jean?
How do you get our younger generation to get involved in social and political activism, Reverend Magnum? What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is I'm excited. This Black Lives Matter movement, it is our younger generation. They are involved. And I'm so excited about it. And I think that we should support them as they are involved. But one of the things that I see sometimes is they have the fervor, but they don't have the wisdom. And so we've been through a few things, and that's why we have to be connected to that fervor that they have. But I'm excited that a Morehouse student and a Spelman student can be tased by an Atlanta police officer by getting into good trouble. And I think that young people are inspired by what we do, not just what we say. And sometimes they look at what we say and we're not doing what we say, and they call it hypocritical. And that discourages them. So what we have to do is be about what we say and doing what we say, and not because they see what we do. They see us not involved. They see that we're not a part of speaking up about the injustices that are right in our faces. And as a result, I think one of the things that we can do is to encourage our young people to reach for their dreams and to say that it is possible, even when it doesn't look like it's possible, to encourage them and be a part of the Black Lives Matter, to be a part of helping them with our wisdom, because we've gone through many tears and hardships, and sometimes they don't understand it. And I think one of the real things, I think President 45, I thank him for one thing. He brought out the real racists. Down at the school where my son went, he didn't know the racism that my daughter is a senior at a school right now that's majority white. I'll put it like that. And they were not racist. When my son was there, he was a basketball star and all that good stuff, but he didn't see some of the things that 45 just made people show their colors, and they've shown their colors. So now we can speak up about those things and do something about the people that are being unjust and oppressive, and all this voter suppression and injustice anywhere, as Dr. King said, is a threat to justice everywhere. And that's why we have to speak up. And as we speak up and we join with our younger generations, baby boomers and the generations X, Y, Z, whatever the generation, we all can make a difference. So that's what it's all about. That's what it's about.
Very good. Thank you.
So Reverend Mangum, since you talked about the younger generation and their involvement, particularly with groups like Black Lives Matter, when did you actually start participating in political activities? Did you do so in your youth, or did you wait until you got in college or later on in life?
I think, well, in high school, I helped my best friend. My best friend became the first Black student body president. They actually had a Black and a white. They had a co-presidency. They had a Black president and a white president in Griffin, Georgia. And so I helped him to get elected. He was my best friend. And that was my first kind of foray into it. But then when I got to Howard University and just saw the opportunities, and boy, it was just a whole new world for this kid that grew up in Griffin, Georgia, not exposed to anything. The first day I came on the campus of Howard University, for example, I saw these figures, and you could barely see across the campus. You saw these figures doing taekwondo, moving in these ways, this Oriental art. And I said, Black people do this kind of thing? I mean, Black people doing all kind of things. And so I just got involved. And the great thing about Howard is it's in DC, and I interned down on the Capitol. And I interned for my Congressman John Flynn at the time, and Talmadge, the one that was caught with the money in his raincoat. And then I worked for the Black Caucus, and I had to work my way through college, and I had about 7 jobs at one time. But and it's a political town, and I ran for office, and I ran and won offices, and just had a great time at Howard University. And that was my exposure, similar to what Kamala Harris. She did politics at Howard University, and then she kept going. And I just saw that could make a change. It could make a difference. And politics does affect everyone's lives. And you know, it's politics. You know, you have to have a license to have a dog. You know, to do so many things. So and that was some of my experiences. Primarily, Howard was the thing that brought me. Howard flowered me. I did really good in school, grade wise, but like on standardized tests, I was terrible. And that's why I'm against standardized tests, because Howard gave me a shot. And boy, I didn't know a candelabra versus a chandelier. I didn't know certain things, the difference between certain things that you would culturally have to know on standardized tests. And so I thank God that I did pretty good in school. And as a result, we just have to go forward.
Well, you know, I'm so glad that you do that, and I'm always going to advocate for historically Black colleges. You know, I'm an alumnus of 2, Shaw University, where I did my undergraduate, North Carolina Central, where I did my graduate work. It gives you that confidence, as you said, not knowing those A, B's, and C's, and you know, everybody, you know, comes from different walks of life. But when you leave there, you are prepared to handle, you know, any situation. And so the fact that you talked about, you know, your experience at Howard, and, you know, for those of you who are looking for places to go, and you know, we've got some of the best here, but across the country, I'm always going to do my HBCU ad because, you know, when you talk about activism, you know, one of the things that, as you said, 45, talking about people talking about being woke. those of us who thought we may have arrived, or that we were in a post-racial because we elected a black president, this really told us that, you know what, take the blinders off, and we all need to be active. I mean, you mentioned last week on the show about, you know, being a member of the NAACP, and now we have Black Lives Matter. I want you to expound on the importance of being a part of those organizations as we are now in this situation where we are, and how they can help move us forward.
Oh, absolutely. I think when we talk about Black Lives Matter, we have to support our own institutions. And when we support our own institutions, for example, the NAACP, it doesn't, it's a small amount to be a member, and I'm a life member, but it's a small amount to be a member, but those resources help someone to be down in that legislature, for example, every day. Someone that advocates on our behalf, even on a national level, to be on top of the draconian measures that are being put forth all the time. And we just have to be, when you talk about activism, that means just being a part of some good trouble. Find someone doing something good and become a part of it. Because I think it's godly. I think it's a divine obligation that we have, because we've been blessed to be a blessing. And if you've been blessed, you can't just sit home at your 2 and 3 car garages. And I'm reminded that this year, Memorial Day, May 31st to June 2nd of 1921, 100 years ago, there were people that were more wealthy than, they called it a Black Wall Street. It was the biggest race war in American history. They destroyed that Black Wall Street because those people had wealth. And it's not just about having wealth. If you don't have some liberties, some rights to protect those liberties, we have some real problems. So we have to get active and be a member of the SCLC, the NAACP, People's Agenda, even the ACLU. There are many organizations. You pick one. And as you do that, the five, one of the things that President Obama showed us, that is the $5. If you get 1,000 people giving $5, that's significant change. If you get 1 million people giving $1, just $1. And so many people say, I don't have any money, I don't have anything. But when we come together collectively, it's like putting a fist together. And when you put a fist together, you can really do some damage. And I think that that's the genius of organizing, strategizing, and mobilizing. And that's one of the things that I think that we have to do. If you're not a part of the solution, you are part of the problem. As one of the great persons at Howard Loss had said, either you're a social engineer or you're a parasite on society. You're getting all you can, canning all you get, and then sitting on your can. And so many people are so selfish. I got mine, y'all go get yours. But no, we got to help our brothers that are under that bridge. We got to go and help somebody else who didn't have the advantages that we have had. And so I'm so thankful, as you say, my brother, for HBCUs, because hey, it brought me out. I felt like change from a penny when I was in Griffin, Georgia. I mean, they made me feel like, I remember in a class in like the 7th grade, they integrated school, 7th grade. I made the highest grade in this class. I made an A. And this woman with another woman came and stood right in front of me. These 2 white teachers, they said, oh, he's a good B student. Just denigrating me,
Wow.
just minimizing me is the way they did it. And but when I went to Howard, they said, boy, you can do anything. Just like my grandmother said, you can do anything. Anything you want to do it. And so that's what I say to all our guests, all our audience, do something. Don't just sit back in your comfort. There's work to be done. And I think God is calling us. God has given us purpose. And this is like Esther in the Bible, such a time as this, we need you now. Some people think that they're safe, but there was, you wake up one day, the first Reconstruction lasted 12 years. And then all of a sudden the North withdrew from the South. At one time, we had 2,000 African-American elected officials. We had
That's right.
16 people in Congress, including 2 senators. We had a governor. We had Blanche K. Bruce and Hiram Revels, as you mentioned, David, his first senator. We had Secretary of State, Justice of the Supreme Court. But now, those people woke up one day and they didn't have those rights. And God has given us the ability to do something now. And that's why I'm pushing everyone. Call your U.S. congressman. Tell them we want the John Lewis Voting Rights Act with, this is something they don't have in it yet. I just talked to some lawyers this week. They don't have Section 5 pre-clearance. I did Section 5 litigation. That means that any voting practice or procedure that changes must not have a discriminatory effect on the population. That's not in there. And we got to have that in there, because some people are saying, well, I'm just so glad when the Voting Rights Act passed, these people, what they're doing won't matter. It will matter. So we need to call the federal government to push for Voting Rights Act now, within this first 100 days that Biden has, because nothing is promised. Politics is politics. And the only reason that 45 tried to steal this election, because he thought he could do it, and he almost did it, because there were days when people would have found 11,780 votes and made a difference and say, okay, Georgia, your votes don't matter. And it's an avalanche. It's creating a false narrative. He keeps saying something wrong that's not false. People start believing it. So we got to be active and talk about what we can do. We got to write letters. We got to email. We got to join these organizations. We got to write some op-eds. You can even go down to the Capitol and talk about what impact having on the Zoom. You don't even have to go down there now. You can get on a Zoom call and say, well, it was convenient for me to vote by mail. It was convenient for me to vote absentee ballot. And without that, I would have a problem, particularly in a COVID environment. We can just say that and say that to the people so that they will understand that it's about voter suppression, not about voting fraud, which doesn't really exist. They're creating a false thing, and it's been debunked. Even our own Secretary of State has said there's no widespread voting fraud, but they have all these draconian so many laws are proposed right now to stop our vote, because if they can stop just 5% of 5 million votes, they will win every time, because it's just, the elections are just that close. Less than 15,000, less than 11,000, less than 55,000. And so we got to really speak up and say, hey, we care about our right to vote and we want it now, and we're not going to put up with it. And you can do it from the pleasure of your Zoom. You can do it. And some of us, if you feel comfortable, you can go down to the Capitol. But let your voice be made known by being a part of the Urban League, SCLC, all these organizations that are standing up for us. If we don't stand up for us, who is going to stand up?
Right. Jean, you had a question, I know.
May I ask another question? As a grandparent, how would you encourage me or other grandparents to get their grandchildren involved in the NAACP? And then what are the advantages of them becoming involved in the NAACP? Would you share a moment about that with us?
Fantastic. The NAACP has ACT-SO program. They have a number of programs for young people, even writing essays. And it's amazing when our kids take a moment to research their history, research what they want to do. I found it astounding as I was speaking in front of so many young students, and I find that most young people spend more time planning a party than they do planning their lives. And the NAACP has some very structured programs to help them to go in a direction that will, be so good for their rest of their lives. And as we are involved in NAACP, as whether I'm not a grandparent yet, I pray God one day I am one. But if we are grandparents or parents, if we are active in the NAACP, those kids seeing us active can get them active. In fact, if we can see on the first Saturday of the month, that we're attacking the issues that are plaguing our education system. If they see see us involved with NAACP dealing with health issues, then I think that would make a difference. So our young people, I was in the Boy Scouts, and it mattered that I was in something that was doing something constructive. And as we get involved in NAACP and constructive organizations, it gives us another family that's not a gang. And so we want to find out, get our kids involved with the NAACP, with the Urban League, and all these other areas.
Okay, Sharon, I know you wanted to ask him a question as well.
I did. So I want to ask the question, Randall, as relates to your current involvement with politics, is there something else that you're working on right now? I think you shared a little bit in the last show. Can you share with our audience some of the things you're doing right now?
Right now, yes, absolutely. Right now, I'm involved with some lawyers, and I'm dealing with the People's Agenda. This year, there are like 28 states that have introduced a pre-file or carried over 106 bills restricting voting process, limiting mail voting access, imposing stricter voting rights ID requirements, limiting successful pro-voter registration policies. And so we're working on opposing those types of legislations. And if need be, we are looking at strategies and possibly even filing lawsuits on them. But these restrictive policies are really a threat. And so I'm working with lawyers all across the state, as well as some other activists that are dealing with voting rights issues. And that's just something that's been dear to my heart. In fact, I wrote an article when I was in law school about voting rights. I was on the Law Journal, and I wrote that. And it's something, if we don't have the right to vote, it's the pillar to democracy. And democracy is being threatened right now. And we take it for granted that we have all these rights and we can do all these things. But when people stand up and lie about them and we don't counter it, we suffer. So right now, that's my biggest thing. Voting rights, although I'm doing some things on entrepreneurship. I started something with my family. Every Monday night, we want to talk about wealth building, because there's something that we don't really concentrate on. And we have scratch babies. We have the generation starting from scratch every generation. And a good man leaves a heritage to his children, not just wealth, but a spiritual legacy. But at the same time, Papa was a Rolling Stone. All he left me was without this song. And so many of us in that situation, all he left me was alone. So when I leave, I wanted to be clear that we don't beg people for nothing. We want to give out some jobs, and we want to know how to do that. And it's learning how to do it. And then there's a way to do things if we're in business to make us more. In fact, it's so sad that 45 spent $750 in taxes, and I've spent hundreds of thousands. One time I spent over $500,000 in taxes, and man, oh my gosh! But I learned better. And you got to learn how to do it and learn how to keep that money. And I had to learn that. Just think that you're giving all your money away rather than reinvesting it and building wealth. So I'm involved in wealth building. I'm involved in protecting our voting rights, our civil rights, but silver rights.
Well, Reverend Randall Magnum, it's been a pleasure having you here today.
I can't believe it. We ran out of time. I'm sorry.
Time goes. Well, that's what happens when you're sharing all this knowledge and the passion. Your activism and the passion in your activism is so evident. And I hope that those who are watching us today will catch that fire through their computer screens or through their mobile devices, however they're watching this program, and that they will follow your lead, because it takes a village, and it takes all of us to do our part. And because where there is unity, there is strength. And so I do know that if people want to get in contact with you for any of your services or anything, how can they get in contact with you, Reverend Mangum?
RandallMangumLaw.com, or on Facebook, Randall Mangum. I'm on Facebook as Randall Mangum. And I welcome the opportunity to serve, and glad to be able to be here. And I just think that this is an exciting time that God has given us. And as we work together, we can make the difference that we all need to have for the coming generations. That they said on our watch, we did what we needed to do.
Well, thank you again
Amen.
for being here. Once again, on behalf of my lovely co-hosts, Gene Hendricks and Dr. Sharon Mitchell, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you at home for watching. We want to thank our executive producer, Dr. E. Dewey Smith Jr., and the entire Hope TV media team that put these programs together, that's given us an opportunity to share information, to stay connected. While we're even going through this pandemic, we've been able to provide information that will lift you up spiritually, but also in your daily walk in terms of just dealing with life. And because, again, we know that those are things that are important. So, again, my name is David C. Linton, and until the next time, we wish you a great day. Stay focused, and remember, age ain't nothing but a number. Until the next time, bye now.
Bye-bye.